Creative Mom Kamela here from Creative Mom's Decant. So today I have UV resin out. We are going to do some testing. So we are going to make 3 different types of keychains with a paint stripe. We're going to use vinyl, we're going to use acrylic paint, and we're going to use mica powder. Let's go! Alright, so we're going to start in Cricut Design Space to cut the vinyl for the vinyl one. So let's search paint stripe. And this is where it gets kind of crazy, which is what started me trying other options to get one, is there's just really no Cricut Design Space paint stripe that is great. So what I ended up doing is I used Procreate to draw a paint stripe, and I'll show you what I came up with. So after saving them in Procreate, I uploaded them into Design Space, and here's the 2 options I came up with. You can use Procreate to be very creative with these. So you can also change the sizing a little bit when you're in here. Like now looking at this one, I may want to make it a little fatter. And I'm cutting about 3 inch strips today. So 2.5 inches is about as long as I would want either of these to be. So I'll stop that one there. This one I'll take down to there. And now we're ready to send these to the mat. If you wanted to add any names or anything fun to your keychain, so you'd want to do that here. So I could go into text and I can type a name here. Whoops. And change the font. If you want to cut different colors, I would recommend that you actually cut them all and use the same mat. I'll link a Tumblr video that shows you how to do that up here at the top. Alright, so I'm using Orcal 651 and just weeding this out here with a couple of my favorite weeding tools. I used 3 fonts, Craft Chameleon's Rainy Day, Night Owl, and KH Mellow Yellow Buttercup, a couple of my favorite just fun bold text for keychains. I will say the Rainy Day font is a skinnier one. Alright, so I cut this one using Cricut adhesive vinyl. I was able to cut both of these on the same mat. I use premium outdoor vinyl for both the Oracle and the Cricut, and it cuts great for me. So let's dive into our testing here. I'm going to remove the paper backing off of this one, and then let's dive into the acrylic paint first. So I'm going to use an acrylic paintbrush, just a paintbrush, and some acrylic paint. And I did not bring a paint palette over because I don't do this method very often. So we're going to just swing it and throw some paint on here. And I want it to look strokey, so I'm just going to stroke. That's way too much. Let me grab. And that's it. Acrylic paint is hard. Obviously you're putting acrylic paint on a acrylic paint blank, but I do think it looks the most authentic when you're done, assuming you were able to get your stripe to look cool. So, and that's the hardest part, is, and also deciding when to stop and, you know, making yourself happy with it. So I decided to widen this one out a little bit, and I'm going to call it done here in just a second. So I'm going for stripes on the outside. I don't really want those runs in there, but it is hard to get those out with 1 coat of paint, so you may need to go with 2. So we're going to set this aside and let it dry. And as it dries, we may decide we're going to add another one. I'm going to cheat. I really was not thinking paint. I was thinking UV resin, so I didn't even get water out. So, good old wet wipe to the rescue. I don't have water in my craft room. It is right next door, but I would love water, you know, close to my workbench. But anyway, you can't have it all, right? I say I really am. I'm blessed by God and spoiled by my husband. And I'm very blessed to have a nice hobby budget. which makes it fun to test things out like this. I am using Craft Chameleon acrylic blanks today. And now we're going to test the mica powder. I will link my mica powder below. It is my favorite, and I have tested several different kinds. So I'm going to take some powder. You really should put the resin in first. That's way too much. I'm going to take some mica powder and put it in the bottom here. And then resin. I am using my Craft Chameleon UV resin. And I am at the end of this bottle, which is why it's getting messy. And when I found my second bottle, I remembered that they send an extra tip with their resin. So when it gets messy, you can actually, clean it up and use the new tip. So just keep that in mind. I have a feeling part of that went down in my shelf, which I'm going to have to address later. I'm a messy crafter. There is no doubt in that. So you I have a hard time with my work surface because I get it dirty too. UV resin is a messy craft. So if you're not good for messy, then I don't recommend it. So I'm going to grab my brush and stir this in. And I am doing this thicker than I would do if I was covering the blank. You do have to watch mica powder and getting it too thick that it won't set up inside and underneath the color with UV resin. So this is a pretty color. I chose the teal in this. I chose teal in everything, or tried. But this is the teal powder here, and let's run it across and make our paint stripe. So it's just kind of like painting. It is a little, thick like paint, so it's going to have those runs. It does also run a little bit itself with a little bit of talking it into it, running. So a little persuasion. If you have played with UV resin, I want to know what kind you played with and how you feel about it. So I've played with several different kinds. I am getting ready to do a comparison video, but I am a big fan of the Craft Chameleon UV resin. It is my favorite, and I've tried a few different kinds, but I found another one today that I had stashed to the side. It is still good, so I thought I would do a test and show you, how it works and how this one works. So look for that video coming up. Hit subscribe if you want to see it. So we almost have this paint stripe completely on this blank. And then for the last one, you guessed it, it's the vinyl, and it's super easy. We're just going to transfer that on. I don't worry about transfer tape in my fingers on big things just because I'm going to seal this anyway. Same thing with my letters over here, but I am going to go grab transfer tape because there's no way I can line those up. Paint stripe I can line up. And take a peek at this one. It's looking pretty good. It is going to need to dry a little longer, so when it's dry, we'll come back and we will start adding our UV resin to do this comparison. All right, so we're just going to get the vinyl placed on these. So I'm going to start with the one that's vinyl underneath, super easy. And then you're going to want to cover it with UV resin. This is the mica powder one, and I decided it needed one more coat of mica powder, so I went ahead and did that. And this one is still not quite the coverage I want, so I dabbed on a little bit more paint. And we need to get the vinyl onto the mica powder one, and then we're going to cover both of these completely. Again, I'm using my favorite UV resin, and you just want to make sure you spread it edge to edge. So it is a thick formula, so you really have to talk it into going to the edge. So again, another great time to throw on some music or do a book. Kind of have to watch this, so maybe it'll be a podcast or an audio book, but that's why I love UV resin, is it's fun to relax too. And this was a fun testing project. I really enjoyed it. And I think, as you can tell, the moral of the story here is they all three turn out fun. And it just depends on what colors and what kind of style you're going with, or just what you have on hand. The acrylic paint was the one that took the most of my patience. And we'll get to that in just a second. I'm going to finish these up and get these cured. They are looking great. All right, so these two are ready to go underneath the light and be cured. And this one I'm still waiting on, and still waiting on, and still waiting on. So my patience at this point are shot. I'm going to, I don't have any patience, let's be honest. I'm going to go ahead and cover it with UV resin. It is not what I would call dry. So that is a disadvantage of using the acrylic paint. And I'm going to either do 2 coats on this side or flip it over and put the vinyl on the other side now, because I could not put the vinyl onto the wet paint. So here we go. So the entire time that light was on, I made sure to put my hand over and cover this because it will cure. So these are done. I'm so excited to see all 3 of these. This one I'm going to put under the light for this layer. And we are going to remove the paper backing from these 2 and take a look at our first 2. So this one is Orcal and Cricut vinyl. And it's all vinyl. It's super pretty. All vinyl on a keychain is very snazzy. It definitely is. That's the Night Owl font there from Design Space. So here's the Mica Powder. And I love this side of this one. I probably should have put the vinyl on that side, but a big black vinyl on that, a bold color, really does look nice. I love that one. And then last but not least, the acrylic paint, which gave me a little trouble, and I need to still put the vinyl on. It does look really nice. So I am going to show you how I put beads on. It's just a super simple method. You need a little thicker cording than I used here, but this was the easiest way to make a video and show you. So you want to feed both ends through and make yourself a loop, and then feed your 2 ends through there. And that holds onto your keychains or your car freshies, or whatever they're calling them. But it holds onto them really well. And I like to tie a big bold knot here at the bottom. And sometimes I even tie in other pieces of the same cording I'm using right there at the bottom. And I love the rustic style that that gives you. These all 3 really did turn out super cute. I appreciate you watching today. Likes and subscribes are super helpful. Have a joyful day, friends. Choose joy. Bye.